Welcome to the Grace and Grit podcast, made for women who want their healthiest years to be ahead of them, not behind them. Join your host, Courtney Townley, right now as she breaks down the fairy tale health story you have been chasing all of your life into sensible action steps and lasting change. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Grace and Grit podcast. This is your host, Courtney Townley, and as always, I am so grateful you're here. And I have a very special podcast for you today. Today, I'm not just sitting down with one guest, but rather 5. More specifically, I am sitting down with 5 women who have trusted me to walk alongside them as they work to become powerful leaders, not just of their own health story, but of their life story. Listening to the Grace and Grit podcast can certainly be inspirational and even educational. But applying what you learn from this show is really what moves your life to higher ground. And this is why I started the Rumble and Rise community nearly 2 years ago, to provide connection, education, and accountability to women who were ready to do more than just listen. Most of what is being sold to women in the wellness space fails to teach women the skills they really need to create a life of transformation. Because life is transformation. It's not a once-in-a-lifetime transformation. And health is not an outcome. It's a way of living. So in honor of these things, I felt really compelled to start a community dedicated to teaching women the skill sets that would honor the multidimensional and dynamic nature that is life. So no matter what your dietary preferences are or what your exercise preferences are, you would have a framework and skill sets to help you succeed. Now, the 4 primary skill sets we focus on inside of Rumble and Rise are chemical balance, smart strategy, thought management, and emotional agility. And in this episode of the podcast, I am joined by 5 members of the Rumble and Rise membership to share their journey with you. If it inspires you, and I'm pretty sure that it will, I really hope that you will consider joining us as well. You can find out all the details about the Rumble and Rise membership by going to graceandgrit.com/ready to rumble. Now, without further ado, let's dive in. All right, so first I want to start by saying thank you to all of you for taking precious time to be here with me and share with me your experience, but also to a larger audience, because I know that there's a lot of spaces and places you could be, and it just means a lot that you're here to spend a little bit of it with me. So I'd love to start this conversation by introducing each of you, having you introduce yourself. And so if you would just summarize, like in a couple sentences, who you are and what you would like the audience to know, I think that would be a great starting place. So let's see. Stacy, why don't we start with you?
Okay, so I'm Stacy Mellum. I live in Corvallis, Oregon. I am 67, and my current life stage is what the Spanish call jubilación, which is another word for retirement, which I love so much better than retirement.
Yeah, it sounds so much better. I agree.
Yes, so that's kind of me.
Excellent. Celeste.
Hi, my name is Celeste, and I live in San Diego, and I am married with 3 teenagers. 2 are now in college, and 1 is in her senior year of high school. And I am a geriatric physician. I work full time and really, really enjoy my work. But also one of my other passions is competitive running. I ran in high school and in college. and then had 3 kids in 2.5 years, got a career, and then realized I really love competition. So I dusted off my shoes, and I'm now running on a competitive team in San Diego. And I'm thrilled. I'm in a cross country season right now, and we do road racing and sometimes track. And so it's brings me a lot of joy. So, but also I need to watch how I age gracefully in this sport as well. So can't do what I did when I was in my 20s.
But 3 kids in 2.5 years, I mean, that is an accomplishment in and of itself.
It is. It is.
Awesome. How about you, Nancy?
Well, I kind of sound like Stacy in a lot of ways. I'm Nancy Reese Jones, and I live in Stevensville, Montana. I am also 67. I love that. I want to put that in the chat, Stacy, what that word is, because I'm retired, but I like your word a whole lot better. I'm enjoying the low stress status of being retired. It really is lovely. I love to ride. I try to ride my horse 3 times a week if I can. I love staying active, but also in terms of, I just, what I want people to know is that I have endured lifelong struggles with food and body image, including decades of bulimia. I was a very high functioning bulimic for many, many years when I was working, successful. It was all secret. And I don't struggle with that, but I still struggle with these other issues, which brings me here. But I have to say, at this stage of my life, I am healthy and happy, and 3 cheers for that.
Oh my gosh, what an awesome thing to be able to say, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nancy. How about you, Marilyn?
Hi, I'm Marilyn. I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I am 56 and divorced after 33 years. So I've spent the last 5 years transitioning into an entire new life of better relationships with myself, my family, my friends, with food, with movement. I'm in the perfect place to just kind of rebuild a brand new life.
I love it. And you are literally building a brand new life. Like you're in the process of building a new home.
Yes.
Excellent. So I would love for all of you to share how you actually define health at this age and stage of life, because I'm guessing it's probably wildly different than how you defined it maybe in your 20s or 30s or even your 40s. So why don't we start, Nancy, with you, with how you define health at this age and stage?
Well, to me, health is being flexible enough, strong enough, and motivated enough to do the things that I really love to do, which are riding, which are hiking and walking, which are, skiing. When I do that, we go to Arizona in the winter, so haven't skied much, but I still like to ski. The motivation is important too, because that's the mental piece, but it's the flexibility. It's like, the other day when I was in agility with my dog, which is more about agility for me than I tripped and fell. And in the moment of falling, I thought, oh God, it's going to be my shoulder, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be damned, I rolled. I actually fell down and I did a roll. And all the people there are in the 60s and they were all going, oh my God, that was so graceful. And I felt so victorious because in that instant, I actually was able to make a choice. And that was, to me, that's graceful aging, because I am going to fall. Mm-hmm. It's how do I do it?
How do you do it? And I would love to hear from you, Nancy, too, like how you describe the health mindset at this age and stage of life, because you have been in a very, very different place, right? Historically, with your health, with your body image. So how does mindset play a role at this point in your life?
Oh, it's critical. I mean, to me, mental health is the biggest thing, because it is something I've struggled with a great deal in my life, is depression, and getting to the other side with the help of therapy and drugs. But also what Rumble Arise has helped me with is that day-to-day mindset of what are these choices, and where's my mind going with this? And without a good mental attitude, I don't have these other things. I am not motivated to exercise. So the self-care, first and foremost, for me, has to be my mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what gets us to show up for the things, right? Like the flexibility and the training and the conditioning that allows us to keep up with those activities that you want to keep doing for as long as you live.
Yeah.
How about you, Celeste? What does health mean to you at this age and stage of life?
It's definitely in transformation, which is what attracted me so deeply to your teachings and to your podcast and the women's group that I'm in, is that for 20 years, health meant sharp mindset and achieving goals and achieving fitness goals. And I was able to do those things for a long time. And so the payoff was huge in both areas of my life. But then I started realizing I can't keep up with that pace. And there was a certain amount of self-destruction that came along with that. And so I needed to learn to temper that and to care for myself and to do the recovery so I can get back in again and perform at a high level, be it at work or at my running or with my family, et cetera. So now I'm really looking at the being the balance of that inner serenity and really looking at resiliency. And there was one quote that I read in some of the books that I've been reading recently, and I can't quote which book it is, but it was so good. I wrote it in my weekly planner, is that to be well is not to live in a state of perpetual safety and calm, but to move fluidly from a state of adversity, risk, adventure, or excitement back to safety and calm and out again. And when I read that, that's something I can do because I fantasize about that safety and calm, but that's really not who I am. If you look at who I was for this 20-year span, I didn't do anything that was safe or calm. I was, I went for it and ruthlessly, which was fun. It was a lot of fun for me. But now I'm learning to kind of go back and forth and to work hard, but then how to restore and recover and keep that balance and work on that fluidity. And that's what I'm learning to do on a daily basis with this group of ladies.
Yeah. I love this point because, that growth, it's such an important nutrient to human nature that, pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone and risking, failure, all of that is a part of our development as a human being. And yet, if we push too hard in that space for too long, we absolutely deplete ourselves. And so I love what you're speaking to, right? Because to me, it's like the essence of grace and grit, right? There's moments to push and really dive deep and really apply the discipline, turn it all the way up. And there's other points in our journey where we really need to sort of dial that discipline back a little bit and look at health through the lens more seriously of recovery. And I love that. And especially as an athlete too, Celeste, like, that through and through in your athletic endeavors, that if you train at the same intensity all year long, your running is going to suffer. So you push and then you pull back and you push and you pull back. And I think that there's just so much kindness in that approach. And it's really the only sustainable approach to do it that way. How about you, Stacey?
So for me, health at this stage really is about having the energy and the capacity and I guess the mental resilience to do the kinds of things that I want to do in my life.
Yeah.
So that's really what it comes down to. And all of the effort has to be kind of focused towards that for me.
Yeah. I love it. Can you give us an example of something specific you're working on right now in terms of like something that requires your mental resilience?
Well, I think that what we're all experiencing with COVID requires us to be mentally resilient. And I think as you age, particularly, we lose more friends. Things just change. In almost faster, and so being able to roll with that and not get knocked down by it, I think is really an important part of the health story.
Yeah. It's such an important point because health is so dynamic, right? Like the level of stress in our life is forever changing. What I felt yesterday is different than what I feel today. And if I don't have tools to honor what that sort of different in stress load looks like, I can get myself into a whole host of trouble. And I love too that you're bringing this up because again, it goes back to this mindset piece. So much of the resilience is in how we're thinking about what happens in our life and what we believe about our capacity to work through these things. Sunshine, why don't you introduce yourself just in a couple sentences and then tell us what health means to you at this age and stage of life.
Hi, I am Sunshine Kelly, and I am a fitness and nutrition business owner here in Michigan. We have both a brick and mortar location and a virtual studio. And behind me is my 4-year-old watching CoComelon on YouTube while I still try to do all the things in life. And that's relevant because so many times in life, I haven't actually even asked myself any good questions. I've just kind of just go without stopping to evaluate where I'm going and why.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the question was about what health means to us right now. And what health means for me is to actually start asking myself, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Do I like my reasons? And at the end of the day, go in that direction with confidence instead of going in a direction I think I should do or one that looks good on paper, but actually go in the direction that's best for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of shoulding, isn't there? Like with, I think, women in the wellness space where we should do these things.
Yes.
Somebody else does it, or our mother did it. Or our best friend is getting success with it, rather than turning in to ourselves and asking, well, what's important to me right now? And where there are so many areas that we could all be focusing on to improve our health. So what feels most relevant to you right now? And what feels like the right next step for you? And quite frankly, I don't think there's a lot of programs and systems that are helping people to do that, because it's really more of like a cookie cutter pathway that this is what worked for 10 other people. So this is the path you should follow too. And I understand the allure of that, because we're busy and we just want like this efficient 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern to get us to where we want to go. But eventually we get there and we start feeling like maybe not as empowered as we thought we would, because we were not making the decisions all along. Somebody else was making the decisions for us. And there comes a point where we do rebel against that.
100%. And not even consciously sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
For me, my body has really fought me on some decisions that I've made that weren't the right decisions. Yeah. And I've ignored the cues. Screw you, body. You're going to do this on this day for this long because that is what I put in my planner.
Yeah, we get very rigid to our idea of what it's supposed to look like, right? Very, very tightly bound to it, which can lead to a lot of challenges down the road. Thank you for sharing that. Marilyn, how about you? What does health mean to you at this age and stage?
Well, for me right now, at this age and stage of my life, it's all about mental health. And I love what we're doing this last couple of months about resting and applying some grace, et cetera. Because for a really long time, I was completely disconnected with myself, following along in that pattern, get it done, be an expert at everything that you do everything the best that you can. And I was so disconnected, not only with myself, but what was important to me. So now my health journey is all about advocating for myself, whether it's mentally or physically, knowing what it is that I want and saying no to things, whether it's opportunities or physical programs, et cetera, but just being able to say no to things that I don't want to do or I don't feel are right for me at this stage, and moving forward, in a way that it's just calming for me, and it makes a lot of sense for me to move forward that way. And I don't have to follow anybody's prescription.
Yeah. So how hard was it for you to start trusting that?
Well, because of my divorce, I kind of was on my own, and it was like really freeing, because it's like, where am I going to live? What am I going to do? And a lot of that was really terrifying to say I am actually going to be on my own, even though it was my choice. But just having the opportunity to reflect, and it's sort of like everybody in my life gave me that space to say, okay, let's just leave her alone, because obviously she needs some time. And it really was a lot of just listening to myself and backing off of so many commitments with people and activities and all of that kind of thing that I had committed to and felt like I couldn't get out of.
Yeah. I'm curious for the rest of you, because I talk a lot with clients about self-leadership, right? And a lot of members inside of Rumble and Rise, I talk about that with you all the time. And it is a stark contrast from a lot of what we've been sold. And so I'm curious for if anyone wants to share, like, if that was a disorienting space for you to be in, like what, not have this sort of laid out plan and start listening to myself and making decisions and start experimenting and not knowing exactly how it's going to turn out. Does anyone want to share their Rumble with that? Like, was that just easy for all of you? Celeste, what are you thinking?
It was extremely challenging, which is why I knew it was the right decision for me to join the group, because I needed that challenge and I needed the support to create some safety that no matter what the outcome was for the day, that I would be okay. And my challenge was slowing down, because if something's wrong, I want to fix it and I want to work harder to do that.
Yeah.
And I would just go in the same cycle where, why am I getting injured, or why am I getting burnt out, or why am I always tired, or just whatever the repeated cycles are that were going on in my mind or in my life. And to not have the exact answer and have to process that was very challenging, where it's just tell me what to do and I'll fix it and I'll do it. Give me the answer. Yeah. It's not like that. Life isn't like that. And you don't give us the answer. We create the answer for ourselves, but it's a process and a journey. I can't just journal about it and do it in one night. So it was a huge challenge, and it remains a challenge, which is why I still stay connected to the group.
Yeah.
Because if I can do this thing on my own, okay, fixed, check it off the box. I'm on to the next task.
Yeah.
It's not like that at all. So it's a challenge, but I don't have to be alone in doing it.
Yeah. Stacey, go ahead.
Well, I just totally agree with Celeste on that. I didn't find it particularly challenging, but it was very comforting. It was the idea of being able to work through my own process and figure out what I needed to do for me. I think that's one of the benefits of Rumble and Rise, is that it's both individualistic and kind of holistic. And just as an example, one of the things that's nice in this, having this group of women that you're working with, is that they help you identify strategies that you then try for yourself and see what works for you.
Right.
So there isn't just one strategy, but suddenly you have a bunch to choose from, and you can try them out and experiment and find what really works for you. I think that's one of the real benefits of the program.
Yeah, it's community. Telling someone you're rumbling with something and not just having one answer or one sort of person at the pillar of the of the program, but having all of these resources available to you, all of this life experience to see what might work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody is so kind and supportive, and it's not, well, you have to do this. It's like, well, I tried this and it worked for me. Mm-hmm. And that is so wonderful to hear, and then jump in and try that particular technique if you think it might be something for you.
And simultaneously, you're opening yourself up to fail, right? Like, you're willing to walk into the arena and say, I don't really know how this experiment is going to turn out. It may not get me to where I want to go, but it feels like the right next step. And you do that enough times, and you start to learn how to trust yourself again, that, I actually really do know more than I was giving myself credit for. Nancy, and then I'll come to you, Marilyn.
For me, and I echo the things that the others have said, I came into this process working with you after being involved with something else.
Yeah.
And where I achieved, the focus there for me was, okay, I want to get strong, and I want to get lean, and I want to lose weight. And I did get all that after working really hard for a couple of years. But it wasn't sustainable for me, and there weren't answers in that program for sustainability. Yes. And so for me, it wasn't talking about a lot of weight or anything like that, but it was, I felt really good and all this kind of stuff, but I wasn't able to keep up that schedule of the workouts, and it was a very rigid kind of a program. And I was good, like Celeste says, tell me what to do and I'll do it. I was good for a certain period of time. But then when I got back into some of the habits that I did, again, I'm not talking about, dozens of pounds coming on, but it was just, I got back in my old way of thinking. And I love this program because it's incredibly sustainable.
Mhm.
It's, and I get to pick and choose. At first I was sort of overwhelmed because there's so many things. Oh my gosh, there's this, and there's no, like you do A-B, like you go into a restaurant, you choose this, you choose your meat, and then you choose your bread, and then you choose. A little daunted by that.
Yeah.
But it's really been very, very healthy for me because I can make those choices, and I am more than ever convinced it's about health. I am not convinced I need to get back to that weight that I was. And because the whole mindset around that weight was I was so fixated on that.
Sure.
So anyway, I just feel like I know, and it's a hard realization, but what I want to say to people is if you have issues with body image or with food issues and stuff like that, and you've had them, chances are it's scary to look at someone like me at 67 and say, oh my God, I'm not going to be like her. But you probably will be. We're still going to have these issues. And it doesn't mean we can't deal with them gracefully, but they don't go away. And it's taken a lot of humility for me to get to that understanding that this is my diabetes. This is something that I need to be working with every day.
Yeah. It's a
not
practice.
gonna go away.
Right.
Practice. And here is a community that believes not in this end goal of you lose this amount of weight, you're golden, you're done. But hey, we're in this for the long haul, for our self-care and our entire health.
Absolutely. I love that. And just backing up to what you said earlier, it's so funny, like choosing from the menu. There is a lot available to you inside of Rumble and Rise. And first of all, it's very intentional because everyone's coming in at such a different point and everyone's rumbling with something different. And so yes, the consistency code is kind of that framework that I always bring everyone back to. But once you're through that, it really is choose your own adventure based on where you are currently rumbling. So I'm really glad you spoke to that. I think that's great. And I completely hear everything you're saying. We're cultivating a space of practice here versus come join us for 6 weeks or 3 months, get to your goal, and then you'll have whatever you want forever, right? Like that. We're putting all that in the dumpster and setting it on fire and saying, no, we're really committing to a lifetime of practice here. Not saying you need to be in the community for the rest of your life. Marilyn, how about you? What were you going to say?
Well, that's actually kind of where I was going, Rick, to say that regardless of what we're rumbling with, because every woman in the group is rumbling with something different, or we're not all identical. So just recognizing it, there is no quick fix, but we have things like, going back to the consistency code, taking things one step at a time, go back to the basics and give yourself a chance to recommit or start over again without it feeling like failure is a huge benefit to everyone, that we encourage each other to do that. You can, and every week you can rumble with something different, but the same principles apply.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a core principle sort of palette to choose from in terms of skill sets that I think everybody definitely benefits from learning from. And then how much someone needs to dive into each one is, of course, going to be maybe a little bit different. Thank you for sharing that. Sunshine, how about you on the self-leadership piece? Was that challenging for you to sort of take the reins of your own process in that way?
I find myself to be open to all the tools that we are learning.
Mm-hmm.
When I first met you and spoke with you, I really thought I needed a coach that was this, and this, all the like check boxes, right?
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that I hopped on a group call, because what I found is the thought model that you teach us so well can be applied to so many different things, and that maybe I'm not going through what other people are in this moment, but look how you can apply this model, right?
Yeah.
So it's universal that whatever does happen in the future, there's a way to work through it. And then there's a community to call and say, okay, I've got this new challenge going on and I'm going to apply the model, but I would still like the community to come along and we support each other.
Yeah.
So it's about, like you said, where we're at, and everybody's echoing in that. But there are tools that we can apply depending on where we are today.
So there's a lot of different ways to be supported inside the community. I think you all know that, right? I mean, there's group coaching calls, lots of them. There's master classes and support materials. There is the Facebook group. There's all kinds of things. So I'm curious for each of you, what has been the most impactful part of the membership site? Like, where do you reap the most value? And specifically, like, is there a master class that was just really impactful for you? I'd be curious to know what that is. I see you all thinking. Yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
For me, the real life-changing one was, I think it was just about 2 months ago, was the leading the dance with Sugar.
Yeah.
Because Sugar is my nemesis, and I have been leading the dance with Sugar for the past 2 months. Really incredible. But it's interesting because part of that leading the dance is your choice. And I made the choice this weekend when we were, somebody brought some dessert over to our house, and it was sweet. And I made the choice very consciously to eat it. Yeah. And damn, if I didn't struggle yesterday and I'm struggling today, and it's like, okay, you chose, and that was okay. And now you get to choose again, which is saying, God, that wasn't really worth it, was it? So that masterclass was incredible for me. I love the mindset resets, whatever you call those, the meditation things.
The guided meditations, yeah.
Those are fabulous. I wish I could think of one. I love those. And I haven't been to nearly enough coaching calls, but I find them wonderful. So I would say those, coaching calls are just, you're so available, Courtney, to each and every one of us. And it's to have your availability like that on these coaching calls is remarkable, really. So, I'd say those are the three tools that I found the most. The mindset resets, the master classes, and the coaching.
Yeah, and even within the support, it's kind of like there's self-leadership in that. There is no right way to be here. It's, do you like how you're showing up, and do you like how you're making use of the tools or not? Because I know people who are in this community and have been in this community for 1.5 years that I've never seen on a group coaching call. I just trust, because I do get emails from them about where they are in their own process and that it's working for them. And so I think that that's such a great lesson for life, that a lot will be presented to you in terms of what might help. But at the end of the day, you really need to decide, based on your bandwidth, what can you handle and what feels right. So yeah, I love that. Great. Does anyone else want to share? Stacey.
So I've been getting a lot of value out of the Monday and Friday accountability posts in the Facebook group, mostly because it kind of holds my feet to the fire to think about what is it that I'm, committing to do this week, and how am I showing up? And so I think that's been, real valuable. And then, there's so many wonderful resources in the whole program, but just as one that jumps out at me, that is.
I'm glad you mentioned that, though, because I think so often, getting started is almost the easy part. I know a lot of people say that's the hard part, but I would say it's the easy part. It's the continuing to keep going and keep reminding yourself day after day and week after week why you set out on this path. And I think that accountability piece of Monday and Fridays, at least, like every day would be ideal, right? Of just having some kind of practice in place to remind yourself what this is about for you and why you're willing to get uncomfortable and why you're willing to lean into the work. Does anyone else want to share? Yeah, Sunshine.
3 things. The first one is the Thought Management Deep Dive Masterclass.
Yep.
That's something that I didn't even know how much I was struggling with, not taking control of my thoughts.
Yes.
And where it really became apparent is when we have our one-on-one coaching sessions.
Yeah.
And we move mountains in that 1 hour we spend together. It's incredible how much we can get through. And I love that we've cultivated a great relationship to go deep and be vulnerable. And then the last part, when I put in my calendar goal for June and July to spend 15 minutes a day engaging with someone in the community, it really made a difference.
Yeah.
I build connection. And it's something that now that I didn't do that in August, and I can see the difference. I feel less connected. I have not shown up as much. Skylar, give me 1 second. And I missed it already. So,
and what a great thing to realize, right? That when I make
right?
that practice, I actually feel better. I feel more connected. And you wouldn't know that unless you stepped away from it. So that's just part of the journey.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would love to hear a little bit about how what you're learning inside of Rumble and Rise is not just improving your health, but helping you in other areas of your life. Like, how is it helping you to show up as the person you want to be? Anyone want to speak to that? Yeah, Marilyn.
I think that has a lot to do with the trust and the trust I built up in myself for when I commit to doing something and actually follow through. Because I can kind of get in the space where, oh, I'm feeling good today and I don't need to maybe do a thought download or whatever the case may be, but learning how to trust myself and that my decisions are right and that I have the tools to, get through some of the days that aren't that easy. And then also talking to myself and encouraging myself to do the stuff that I really would rather not do and feel the feels and all that other stuff.
Yeah, it's all that self-coaching, right? It's you coaching yourself, not me coaching you, but you having the tools to be able to sort of give yourself your own pep talk or work your way through the resistance that you're feeling in a moment where you don't want to follow through with something that you put on your calendar. Anyone else want to speak to that, Nancy?
Yeah. What I really appreciate and these are concepts that I've learned in other places, but they're things that you talk about continually, and it helps me to hear them, is the idea of the reset, of just taking time during my day to just sit down, and I have a notebook and I just write what's going on. And sometimes I do turn it into, your concept of the thought model or whatever, but it's very powerful for me to just step out. And sometimes it's because I'm feeling like I want to eat. And sometimes it's because I'm not quite sure what to do next, which is often a trigger for me wanting to eat. But I'll just sit there and just take that moment. And the same thing with the morning time, taking that time or before I go to bed, organizing myself for the next day.
Yeah.
These kinds of daily habits have been really, really important for maintaining my mental health and therefore my physical health.
Yeah. It's amazing how we're reacting with a lot of behaviors that don't serve us. And we can definitely stay in that space the rest of our life. A lot of people do. But building practices into the day that really allow you to step back and become the observer and respond with a choice that is more in line with how you want to be showing up. It sounds so simple, but we all know here that in the throes of the day, it can be really challenging to step out of that reactivity mode. And so maybe we just start by doing it once a day, and eventually we build it more into our lives as we continue with a process like this. But it's huge, right? Just the power to pause and reconsider what you're actually going to do next it's just such a big deal. Stacey?
Well, I think it goes back to how we define health. Mm-hmm. And when you look at health as being holistic, then health is life and life is health. And so it's not something that's different. It's just how you're living. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how I see what we're doing here, impacting things other than what I think society has often said is your health, which is your weight or, how you look in a particular dress or, whatever.
That it's a way of being, right? Like we're committed to a way of being. And this keeps us in a practice of showing up to keep ourselves aligned with that, whatever that is for you. Okay, so I would love each of you to share where you're rumbling right now and where you're winning. Start with the win, because we always start with a win. So what are you feeling really proud of in your process right now? And where do you feel like you're challenged right now? Let's start with you, Marilyn.
I'm having a lot of wins in my relationships with everyone, speaking my truth and asking for what I need, offering what it is that I can, as opposed to over offering and not being able to say no.
This is huge, Marilyn. I mean, from the very first conversations I ever had with you, that's a long way.
Yes. It's Yeah, we have, I love some of the stuff that's been happening lately in the group as well, because just having those conversations that we think are difficult with the people that you care about or that are in your life, even coworkers, having those difficult conversations rather than allowing them to, kind of rule your life and avoiding the conversation. It's totally changed the way I live.
Yeah. Awesome. Where are you rumbling?
Always with movement. I'm out twice a day, but I'd like for that to be more. But even twice a day is a win for me over the last couple of years. So yeah, I'm still rumbling with making that important and trusting myself that I can actually get out there and do stuff like I used to.
Is it that you're rumbling with going after like bigger movement things that you've had on your heart for a while, or is it inserting more movement throughout the day, or is it both?
Probably both. I think more movement through the day because I can be pretty inconsistent. I'll be, really excited about it one day and then the next day there's a sprinkle in the air and I don't want to go outside. So I just let it go instead of picking something else to do.
Right.
So it's just I'm not following through with any of the things that I'd like to do when it comes to movement.
Okay. This will be a good topic for September since we're focused on recommitment. That may be an area that you want to dive deeper into. Who else would like to share where your wins and rumbles? Go ahead, Sunshine.
My win is taking the white space that I have for the last 5 months, of course, with your support in the community. And out of that, I have really allowed myself to feel the things I was not feeling. And the things I was not feeling are love for myself, love for my daughter, and love for my husband. And all of those relationships were really in jeopardy. And so a win for me is changing my priorities. Instead of balancing my business alongside of them, they come first. Of course, God first, then my family, then my business.
Yeah.
And reprioritizing that has allowed me to feel the feelings and be in love with my husband and just love the heck out of my daughter. With that comes the rumble. There are a lot of things I really do want to do with my business and know I can. And I want to make sure I don't bite off too much right now. She's not even 5 years old. So that's still hard for me. I want to work and work and work and build, but not at her expense.
Yeah. So the working and the pushing and the accomplishing, that comes easy to you. That's, you've had a lot of practice with that. And I know Celeste can relate to this, right? That pulling back. I think all of us can, right? That pulling back, the grace, the white space, it can be so uncomfortable and so rewarding. Like I got goosebumps when you talked about that, right? Because I'm thinking, well, of course, like relationships need space and time. That's how they flourish. When we spend time and attention with ourselves, with the people we love. And to have seen you do that firsthand and to see what's come out on the other side it's pretty remarkable. So we keep that in the forefront of the mind as you consider how you want to take next steps in the fall into ramping up your business.
Yes.
Awesome. How about you, Nancy?
Wow, I was just so into what Sunshine was saying. That's very profound and very from the heart. Those are all incredibly big priorities. Gosh, I think, my obvious win to me is is leading the dance with sugar. The fact that I've been able to really cut out excess sugar is huge for me.
What's been the benefit for you with pulling out sugar? What has been the reward in that?
The reward is that I am not focusing my day around, okay, I'm going to Hamilton and there's that coffee shop that I can get I'm going to Missoula and there are those 2 ice cream places. I mean, every trip I took, I was planning and my husband won't be around. And, even though he doesn't care, I was planning my life around when I could get my daily treats. And it was just overtaking me. It has for a long time. And I could always stop at those daily treats. So it didn't affect my weight a lot, but it affected my head enormously.
Oh, yeah. Because not only are you spending the time planning it, but then you're spending the time beating yourself up after the fact.
My crap. Exactly. Yeah. So this has been a whole new freedom, which is lovely. The rumble part is, like I talked about in the last coaching call, is replacement. The fact that now it's the almond butter or whatever. And I know that what I want to be doing is more of the really diving into what we call the buffering, using other substances as opposed to the feelings. That is the hard part. That's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
And that is my biggest rumble right now. And, you know, part of the rumble and part of the rise is really coming to terms with what are realistic expectations about myself, about my weight, about the way I want to eat. And I eat, people say, oh my God, you eat so healthily. I really do eat well, but you know how can I really come to terms with the body image, the weight, these things? I'm always rumbling with those, and all this material helps me enormously with, you know, just saying, good Lord, girl, you're almost pushing 70. When will you be at peace with your body?
Yeah.
And that's a big one. And I get a lot from the community about that, because that's an issue. You know, you don't see that looking at a person. That's what we have, what we carry inside. And God knows it feels like just about every woman I know carries that inside. Mm-hmm. It's huge. So
it is. That's great, Cher. Thank you for that. Celeste, how about you?
I have two areas I want to share about winning. And the first one, which is probably the biggest, is my sleep has improved. And when I first met you, that was the biggest thing that I can change in my life, is getting more quantity and more quality. And I never had issues with not sleeping at night. I just wasn't getting enough. I was just exhausted because I had too much to do. My schedule was too full. And so that has been my goal, is to consistently get over 7 hours of sleep each night. And I measure it by the Oura Ring. So even if I'm in bed 8 hours, I need to actually be asleep. My body needs to be asleep for over 7 hours. And I track it every week. And I'm barely making it, but I'm consistent that I'm getting over 7 hours, where, you know, a year ago was consistently, you know, a little under 6, over 6. And that has been a huge difference for me. So my sleep has improved a lot. It's taken a lot of work and a lot of dedication, because it's not about me not falling asleep. It's about me getting my buns in bed and quieting my mind. Yeah. So, and then the other win is strength training. So I am a distance runner, and most distance runners don't spend a lot of time in the weight room. But guess what happens? Injuries. Yeah. So I've really, really committed, and I've gotten some support in that, in doing consistent strength training 3 times a week since December. So I'm still working on my push-ups and my deadlifts and lunges and squats, and I'm making some really good strides and getting stronger. So I think I'm going to hit my goals by the end of the week. But I have never in my life been this consistent with weight training. Yeah. So, I mean, even when I was in college, I would do a season. But as soon as the season was done, you wouldn't see me in the weight room.
You were out of there, yeah. So what's been the benefit? Like, are you noticing a difference in your running?
Oh, I notice a difference in my running. I notice a difference in my body. I've added Pilates. I do a Pilates class twice a week for the past two and a half months. I never did that stuff. So I notice a difference in my running, in my posture, just the way I feel about myself. And then, you know, people are complimenting me, you know, wow, you've been working out. And I've just gotten really nice compliments from people that have known my body for years and years, and people that are just strangers. So it's felt really good.
What do you think the difference is this time around, right? Like you said, in the past, I've dabbled in it. I've done it for a few weeks, maybe a season, and then I'm out. But this time it sounds like I'm really developing a practice. I'm enjoying it. I'm noticing the benefits, and this is here to stay.
Accountability partner. Mm-hmm. Compliments of COVID-19 and Zoom. So one of my running buddies, we couldn't work out together. So minimally twice a week, we meet by our phone. We FaceTime. We said we do them all the time. Let's FaceTime. So we do FaceTime. So at the beginning of every week, I set up when I can meet her, and then another friend I meet at the gym so we can lift a little heavier. And then I have an app, and I'm doing these different Pilates classes. So the accountability of either meeting someone or meeting a friend. I do work out on my solo a little bit, but it's the accountability of having those friends and meeting them.
Can I also point out that you chose it? Like, no, there was no coach saying you have to do this. It wasn't a part of your curriculum. It wasn't something you had to do. It's something that you opted into.
And now I can't let go because I'm like, I worked too hard to work on my pull-ups and my deadlifts. So now I cannot let a week go by because I don't want to fall backwards. I'm like, it's taking me so hard to get here. So no matter what happens, I have to do a little bit of abs, some pull-ups, and some deadlifts because I don't want to lose the ground that I've worked so hard to gain because it took me a while to get there.
Good. I love it. Those are great wins. Where's the Rumble?
Yeah. The Rumble specifically this past month has been with sugar. And that's been a lifelong thing for me. And I was doing much, much better. I took about a couple of months where I was resisting urges and I was doing much better with my dance with sugar. And this past month, it's really regressed a lot. And I know exactly what it is. Thanks to Rumble and Rise, is I've fallen off my, my planners and my thought downloads and my journaling and slowing down my mind. And I know I'm doing a lot of buffering, and that is, I'm not processing my emotions. So I know exactly where it's coming from. But the great news is I know exactly how to realign myself and how I can get better. So I have reached out to some people to get realigned and to get back on track with that.
Awesome. Good. I love that. Yeah. We all go through phases of that, right? Where we make headway in a certain area and then we get into buffering behaviors, where in this case, we're eating our emotions rather than just allowing them and processing them. And, it's not always the right time to realign to the degree that we have in the past, right? Like, all the things you've done in the past that have helped you to improve your relationship with sugar. But sometimes life is just so full, it feels like taking all that back on or implementing it all back into your life. There is the option to get overwhelmed by that. And so really scaling it down to at least something, right? Just one simple place to start, which I know.
And I definitely know there were two huge life stressors for me and in the month of August that were affecting my ability and my time management. And so I was okay with it. And I said, okay, so I'm having chocolate again, but I know I needed to protect my resources to be there for these two huge areas in my life. And those things are kind of settling down now. And so I'm able to shift my focus a little bit and put some energy back into my thought management and, slowing down.
And consciously buffering is a thing, like where we're eating the sugar and we know exactly why we're eating it and we're going to still eat it. But the consciousness of that, it will help us to realign so much more quickly than if we just did it without ever knowing that buffering is a thing or that this is what I'm actually doing, right? The consciousness is super helpful in this.
Well, and I didn't beat myself up. I don't feel like a failure. And in the past, that's where I would have gone, where it's like, I should know better. I know what to do. Why am I not doing it? Where I looked at it more with a lens of curiosity and compassion. I never would have done that in the past.
Yeah.
So that's a win. And so now I just need to kind of shift myself.
I love it. Awesome. Stacey, how about you?
So, my win has been in my movement practice. And part of that is that I'm no longer comparing myself to other people. Oh. So I'm not looking at Celeste and going like, well, I'm not running all of that. So I'm not, or my very, very fit husband, I'm not comparing myself against him. I am just really looking at, am I doing the things that are moving my body frequently and well? And I would like to continue that practice, but that's feeling very much like a win.
Yeah. And how much more enjoyable is that?
Yes,
it is. It's just,
well, and I also,
myself.
Yeah, I also changed the word. It's not exercise, it's movement.
It's movement. I love
it. It is, and that's what it is. And I love in the vault, some of your videos of like just moving your various body parts and working through from head to toe and back again. That is just joyous. And I think that's what makes it fun too. And that's what makes it feel like a win is, I'm doing hills and I'm trying things that are hard, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. And so that's a win for me is my movement practice.
Fantastic. Where's the Rumble?
My Rumble has been with sleep. And that we've been working on that. But But the thing that's kind of exciting about it is that I've gotten lots of different strategies. I'm trying new things. Some things are working, some aren't, but I feel like I'm making progress. I've added napping to my schedule, something I could have done when I was working full time, but often we don't feel like we can. But I'm still struggling with that a little bit. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're still fine tuning it.
Yes.
Yes. Good. Okay. Last question. We'll wrap this up, but I would love for each of you just to share quickly any closing thoughts you have. If there's anything that you would like to share with listeners, feel free to do that. But also, what would you say to a woman who is sitting on the fence about Rumble and Rise? Because I know there's a lot of women, there's thousands of listeners of this podcast every week. And so I know a lot of them have been listening for years and just haven't taken the bite. Go ahead, Celeste.
I want to share that when you first started Rumble and Rise, I was very eager to get on board and to connect with you on a more personal level, as well as surround myself with other like-minded women who were trying to improve their wellness and their overall mindset. And my life was very full. And for a short period of time, luckily it was short, I suspended my membership because I thought, I can't do this. I can't keep up. I can't listen to this class or join this phone call or whatnot. I just don't have the bandwidth. And so I paused it. And then my life got more hectic for a variety of reasons. And then I rejoined because I thought I need to take care of myself so I can be there for other people. And this is crashing all around me. And I was so glad. And I said, who am I comparing myself with? Mm-hmm. Stacy, I don't think you're worried about what I'm doing for my sleep or my movement or my exercise. I think you just want me to be the best person I could be. And I want that same thing for you. And so I was anticipating everyone was doing these homeworks and filling out these sheets. I could go at my own pace. Yeah. What a wonderful thing. And I'm so glad that I reconnected, because since then I've had many, many ups and downs in life, just as life goes. And I've been able to care for myself so I can care for other people and realign myself and stop that self-sabotage cycle that I allowed myself to get into for years. So that's the one thing that has been very powerful for me, is that I have made it a priority, and I'm so glad that I make the time for this, because it gives me more time in my life tenfold to get my mindset straight and to be there for the people that I love as well as for myself.
Yeah. So I hear there's just so much permission in the way you approach being in this space, which is so kind. So you don't overwhelm yourself. And it really is, I think, such an incredible place to keep yourself aligned. Because like I always say, getting misaligned is the way of life. We all get misaligned all the time. But where a lot of women are struggling is they get misaligned and then they convince themselves, well, now I need to sign up for like the 12-week ketogenic diet or whatever extreme thing it is, where sure, that might help you get realigned, but then what? Because you're going to get misaligned again. That is the way of it. So what are the skill sets that you have in your purse that will always help you to get realigned, no matter what, diet protocol or fitness protocol you're following? Like that's really the purpose of the Rumble and Rise space, is to give you the tools and the framework. So whatever your taste pushes you towards, you have ways to realign yourself and get yourself back on track. Thank you for sharing that. Stacy, how about you?
Well, I would probably tell her, oh my gosh, get off the fence.
Yeah, just get off the fence.
Just get off the fence. Just do it. And I mean, one of the real values of the way you set this up is you can go in and try it out. And if it isn't right for you as an individual, then you're not stuck with some big, 12-month program or whatever that you've bought into. So yes, I just think that having the opportunity to work with a coach like you, Courtney, who has such a depth of skill set in this arena and is such a skilled You are such a great coach facilitator in terms of helping people uncover what they need. That being able to do that and then to be in this group of incredible women to get support is just very valuable. And I would encourage anybody who's thinking about it to get off the fence and jump on board.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Nancy?
I really echo what Stacy was just saying. I mean, I'm just gonna. I just wrote down some quick thoughts, and I feel like when you've worked with someone for so many years, as I've worked off and on with you, Courtney, for many years.
Many years.
You see many aspects of them, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'm just continually impressed with, not just what Stacy was talking about. I think you're an incredible coach, teacher, mentor, motivational speaker, but also your curiosity. You're always looking into new aspects of things. You're bringing in speakers for your podcast. You're always investigating angles of things. You're extremely creative in these various ways that you've allowed us to experience Rumble and Rise. It isn't just kind of one platform. It's many pieces, from the Facebook to the movement, to everything. I just have enormous respect for you. When you told me you were starting Rumble and Rise, it's like Celeste. I just said, I'm on board because I have such confidence in your integrity, and you've never let me down in that regard. And again, your compassion and your ability to be insightful and, to just sort of stay on target and yet never, push. I think your coaching abilities, when you're working with a group like this in the coaching calls, you're able to really dive into one person and help deal with their stuff and then move on very seamlessly to the next. And you have so many abilities, and I am continually impressed and engaged, and you attract such cool people into the community too. So it's like, we all sort of reflect pieces of you, and and also I get so inspired, and I need that inspiration. I think we all need the inspiration because life is tough right now in many regards, in many dimensions for many of us. So I would just say, for a person that's on the fence, you really don't have any idea until you dive into this how much you can get out of it.
Yeah.
Because there's an angle for everything you're interested in. So I can just go on and on, but I'll stop.
I so appreciate it. I really do. It means the world. I have so much respect for you too. And I'll share that when I first launched Rumble and Rise 2 years ago, I reached out to previous clients to say, hey, I'm doing this thing. And if, I would love to have some of you join me. You were one of the founding members, right? Which just meant she had enough faith to have no idea what I was getting myself into. But she was like, whatever you're doing, I'm signing up. Without that kind of support, I would never have been able to build what I have at this point. And so anyway, your support is immensely appreciated. And thank you for those words. Yeah, thank you. Marilyn.
I would say, regardless of where you are in your health journey right now, the Rumble and Rise community will teach you so many skills and build up the trust within yourself that all of those things will last throughout your lifetime, because your health journey is not linear. So all of the things that we worked on together and that we learn and we apply and reapply are things that you will use for the rest of your life. So there's benefit, not just for today, but all the way into the future.
It's so true. And there's so much value in watching each other rumble, to know that you're so together in this one area of your life. And yet over here, there's, all these things that we're still working on, because that is life. There is no human on the planet who isn't rumbling. And yet where are the spaces and places where we can actually normalize that conversation? And I think we've done a really great job of that here, because we're all sharing all the time with where we're rumbling. Thank you, Marilyn. How about you, Sunshine?
Wow, I want to echo everything that everyone said. Let's see. Let me add this perspective, just because I do agree with everything that's said, and I don't want to necessarily just repeat. I could. When you go through life, are you enjoying life, or are you just going through it? And if that speaks to someone that's listening to this right now, remember this conversation, because we learn how to enjoy our lives and not just go through them. And the second part is, think about from Courtney's perspective, this is her business. This is her whole life that she has dedicated to the Rumble and Rise community. She knows and is confident and has the self-trust that this community is life-changing. So think about how that can positively impact your life, working with someone, and those who are surrounded by Courtney can help you in your journey. It's amazing. So get off the fence.
The consensus, get off the fence. Yeah. I love it.
Get off the fence.
Thank you. All right, Celeste, we'll come back to you really quickly and then we'll wrap this up.
I just wanted to say that I love setting goals. I've always been that type of person. I love learning how to accomplish the goals that I set. And I've sought it out in books and in podcasts and various seminars. And I've done that since I was a teenager. I'm a tough critic. I'm very frugal. I'm evidence-based and value conscious. And in my experience, I have never met someone like Courtney, and I've never had the teachings and the life-changing opportunity that I've experienced working directly with Courtney and with Rumble and Rise. So it's very powerful. It's very unique and it's powerful. And I've experienced a lot. So I just want to say that it's unique and powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you all so much. And I know I took an hour of your time, but I know this is going to be so impactful to people who, are avid listeners of the show, and they just don't maybe believe in themselves or their possibility to actually change their life. And I think so much of what you all shared here tonight will help them to start reshaping a new belief. That's my hope anyway. So thank you, all of you, immensely for making the time, for all of the shares, for the vulnerability, and for trusting me. Like, it's a lot of trust and I don't take it lightly. So I will see you all again very soon. And just thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode today as much as I enjoyed recording it. And as you heard, the women inside of the Rumble and Rise membership all live wildly different lives, and they are all at different ages and stages of their life. And yet, the skill sets that they learn inside of this community have helped them all to become powerful leaders of their health journey and ultimately their life journey. So if you were inspired by these stories, if you heard a bit of your story in these stories, I would encourage you to join us inside of the Rumble and Rise membership. If you walk away with nothing else today, I hope it is this message, that your healthiest years truly can be ahead of you, regardless of your age. And I would love to show you how to make that possible. So if you're interested in the membership, head on over to graceandgrit.com/ready to rumble to read about all the details. Thank you for listening to the Grace and Grit podcast. It is time to mend the fabric of the female health story, and it starts with you taking radical responsibility for your own self-care. You are worth the effort, and with a little grace and grit, anything is possible.